Good afternoon to our listeners on Parliament Radio 105.5 FM, our viewers on the Parliament channel, and those of you joining us on the World Wide Web via the Parliament's website, www.ttparliament.org. We are just some 2 minutes away from 1:30 p.m. and the start of today's sitting of the House of Representatives. This is the first time that the House of Representatives would have been assembled following the passage of the budget for fiscal 2016, and already several members are gathered in the chamber. As indicated in our House notes a few moments ago, there are some 93 papers to be laid. There are 2 bills to be introduced: the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015, which is in the name of the Minister of Finance, and the Whistleblower Protection Bill, which is in the name of Minister of National Security. On the supplemental order paper, it is indicated that both bills are to be referred to select committees for consideration. In addition, there are some 6 questions for urgent response, and we also expect that membership of the various oversight committees will also be completed today. Don't forget that you can contact us via social media, via our Facebook page, facebook.com/ttparliament, via Twitter. Our username is @ttparliament. And we're also on Instagram, username ttparliament1. The doors to the chamber have been opened, which signifies the arrival of the presiding officer, so we take you over for the start of the proceedings.
The Honorable Speaker.
We welcome you to the 8th sitting of the House of Representatives in the first session of the 11th Parliament that takes place on Friday, November 13th, 2015.
Almighty God, we give thanks to you, the Creator of the universe, and humbly beseech you to direct and prosper the deliberations of the members of this House here assembled for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Grant that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen. Amen. Namaste.
Oath or affirmation, announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, Dr. Fuad Khan, MP, member for Barataria Sanwan, has asked to be excused from today's sitting of the House. Dr. Bohindranath Tuari, MP, member for Caroni Central, has asked to be excused from sittings of the House during the period November 15th to 21st, 2015. The leave which the members seek is granted.
Bills brought from the Senate. Petitions. One petition lodged by the member for Chaguanas West. Petitioner Kent Samlal, attorney at law, one petitioner, in the matter of Standing Order 21 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I ask that the petition be read.
The question is that the petition be read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Leave is granted.
Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, in the matter of Standing Order 21 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, and in the matter of the petition of Kent Samlal. To the Honourable Speaker and members of the House of Representatives of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in the Parliament assembled. The humble petition of Kent Samlal of number 3 Harris Street in the city of San Fernando in the island of Trinidad in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago respectfully showeth as follows. 1. Your petitioner is an attorney at law, having been admitted to the bar of Trinidad and Tobago in 2009, and is the attorney at law for the claimants in the following matters. A. CV 2015-02944, Sasha Sipasad, by her kin and next friend Karen Mohammed, and her worship Magistrate Marcia Ayres Caesar, Sterling Stewart, the Commissioner of Prisons, and the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. B. CV 2015-02799, Brian Shakil Sipasad, by his kin and next friend Karen Mohammed, and her worship Magistrate Marcia Ayres Caesar, Sterling Stewart, the Commissioner of Prisons, and the
Yes, Honourable Member. In terms of these matters as sub judice?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think I would want to suggest that the petition be first read before I entertain that point which you wish to make.
B. CV 2015-02799, Brian Shakil Sipasad, by his kin and next friend Karen Mohammed, and her worship Magistrate Marcia Ayres Caesar, Sterling Stewart, the Commissioner of Prisons, and the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. C. CV 2015-03225, Akeem Pilgrim and David Smith, by their kin and next friend Wayne Pilgrim and Nicole Smith, and his worship Magistrate Mark Wellington, and the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. These claims are made under Part 56 of the Civil Proceedings Rules 1998 on behalf of minors who have been remanded to the custody of the state. Relief is sought under the Judicial Review Act, Chapter 708 and Section 14 of the Constitution for the violation of their constitutional rights. 2. The claims in judicial review allege, inter alia, that the first named defendants in each matter acted in a manner that was unauthorized and contrary to law, that the decisions under review were illegal and ultra vires, the power of the first named defendants, and the decisions are in conflict with the policy of an Act of Parliament, namely the Children Act No. 12 of 2012. 3. Leave has been granted to seek judicial review in these matters. There are at present 2 procedural appeals pending before the Court of Appeal in the cases of Sasha Sipasad and Brian Shakil Sipasad. Sasha Sipasad's appeal has been fixed for hearing on the 12th day of November 2015. 4. The claimants seek inter alia the following relief and redress from the court. A declaration that the first named defendants had no jurisdiction, power, or authority in law to order that the claimants be detained at the Youth Training Center and the Women's Adult Prison, respectively. B, a declaration that the decisions of the first named defendants ordering that the claimants be remanded to the Youth Training Center and the Women's Adult Prison are unlawful and illegal. C, a declaration that the detention of the claimants at the Youth Training Center and the Women's Adult Prison, respectively, which detention is continuing, is in breach of the claimant's constitutional rights and freedoms guaranteed under Section 4A, 4B, 5(2)B, and 5(2)F1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. D, a declaration that the failure of the state to provide a licensed community residence upon the coming into force of the Children Act 2012 and the Children's Community Residences, Foster Care and Nurseries Act 2000, to which the claimants could be remanded pending the hearing and determination of the preliminary inquiry into the criminal offences for which they are accused, is in breach of the claimant's rights guaranteed under Section 4A, 4B, and 5(2)B of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. 5. During his contribution to the debate on the Appropriation Bill 2015 in the House of Representatives on the 12th day of October 2015, the Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, the Honourable Faris Al-Rawi, Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, gave an account to the House of Representatives of the history of the Children Act No. 12 of 2012, which created community residences. The Honourable Attorney General also made comments that are relevant to the issues in the aforementioned matters. The petitioner therefore submits that this account ought to be put before the court to assist it in determination of these matters. 6. The petitioner proposes to move the High Court of Justice and/or the Court of Appeal for relief in the circumstances referred to above, and humbly prays that the Honourable House of Representatives grant leave to the Clerk of the House to swear an affidavit exhibiting the verbatim notes of the proceedings or extracts thereof, the contribution of the Attorney General and Member for San Fernando West to the debate on the Appropriation Bill 2015 in the House of Representatives on the 12th day of October 2015, attesting that they are a true record of the proceedings in the House of Representatives. And your petitioner, as is duty bound, will ever pray, dated this 13th day of November 2015, Kent Samlal, Attorney at Law, No. 3 Harris Street, San Fernando, petitioner.
The question is that the petitioner be granted leave to proceed. All in favor? Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Leave is granted.
Papers.
The Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the National Institute of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology for the years ended December 31st, 2004, 2005, 2006 and 2007. The report, y'all okay over there? Y'all okay over there? The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Superior Regional Corporation for the years ended September 30th, 2002 to 2006. Wait, Mark is not here. The second report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Tobago House of Assembly for the year ended September 30th, 2007. The reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Land Settlement Agency for the 9-month period ended September 30th, 2004, and for the years ended September 30, 2005 to 2007. The reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Sangre Grande Civic Center for the years ended September 30th, 1988 to 1988 to 1997. The 9-month period ended September 30th, 1998 and for the years ended September 30th, 1999 to 2006. It's 1988, believe it or not. The reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Institute of Marine Affairs for the periods ended September 30th, 2005 to 2007. The reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Natural Lotteries Control Board for the years ended September 30th, 2010 to 2012. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Agriculture Development Bank of Trinidad and Tobago for the year ended September 30th, 2012. The audited financial statements of the Deposit Insurance Corporation for the year ended September 30th, 2014. The report of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago on the insurance and pensions for the year ended December 31st, 2013. The report of the Auditor General on the consolidated financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Unit Trust Corporation for the year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual audited financial statements of the CPEP Company Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2012. The audited financial statements of Youth Training and Employment Partnership Program Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2013. The annual audited financial statements of Trinidad and Tobago National Petroleum Marketing Company Limited for the year ended March 31st, 2014. The consolidated audited financial statements of First Citizens Holdings Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2014. The unconsolidated audited financial statements of First Citizens Holdings Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2014. The audited financial statements of Export-Import Bank of Trinidad and Tobago Limited for the financial year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual audited financial statements of National Information and Communication Company Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2014. The annual audited financial statements of Trinidad Nitrogen Company Limited for the financial year ended December 31st, 2014. The audited financial statements of Taurus Services Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2013. The annual audited financial statements of the Petroleum Company of Trinidad and Tobago for the year September 30th, 2014. The annual audited financial statements of Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance Company Limited for the year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual audited financial statements of Point Lisas Industrial Port Development Corporation Limited for the financial year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual audited financial statements of the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited for the year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual financial statements of the National Maintenance Training and Security Company Limited for the year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual administrative report of the First Citizen Securities Trading Limited for 2014. The annual administrative report for the First Citizens Trustee Services Limited for 2014. The annual administrative report of the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center Management Company Limited as of June 30th, 2015. The annual report for the Heritage and Stabilization Fund 2014. The annual administrative report of the Betting Levy Board for the year ended July 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2012. Madam Speaker, I would not be laying item number 63 at this time. I beg to move that papers 1 to 43 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee and papers numbers 44 to 57 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee.
Honorable members, the question is that papers number 1 to 43 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee and papers number 44 to 57 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. The Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. the annual administrative report of the National Training Agency for fiscal year 2012-2013, the annual administrative report of the National Energy Skills Center for the period October 2012 to September 2013, the annual administrative report of the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago for the fiscal year 2013 to 2014, the annual administrative report of the Youth Training and Employment Partnership Program for the fiscal year 2013-2014, the annual report of the MIC Institute of Technology Limited for the period October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014, the annual administrative report of the University of the West of Trinidad and Tobago for the period October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014, and the annual administrative report of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus for the fiscal year 2013-2014.
The Minister of Public Administration.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The annual report of the Ministry of Public Administration for the financial year 2013 to 2014. The annual administrative report of the Government Human Resource Services Company Limited for the year October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014.
The Minister of Rural Development and Local Government.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The administrative reports of the Port of Spain Corporation for the periods 2009 to 2010, 2010 to 2011, and 2011 to 2012. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following paper. The annual administrative report of the Community Improvement Services Limited for the year 2013-2014. Thank you.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The annual administrative report of the National Maintenance, Training and Security Company Limited for the year ended December 31st, 2014. The annual administrative report of the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission for the year ended September 30th, 2013. The annual administrative report of the Ministry of Public Utilities for fiscal 2014. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Minister of Communications.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following paper. The annual administrative report of the Caribbean New Media Group for the fiscal years 2011 and 2012. Thank you.
Minister of Trade and Industry.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Trade and Industry, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The annual administrative report of the Export TT Limited for the fiscal year 2013-2014, the annual administrative report of the Trinidad and Tobago Free Zones Company Limited for the year ended December 31st, 2014.
The Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The annual administrative report of the Boiler Examiners Board for the period October 2013 to September 2014. The annual administrative report of the Minimum Wages Board for the period October 2013 to September 2014. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Social Development and Family Services.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. The annual administrative reports of the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development for the years October 1st, 2011 to September 30th, 2012, and October 1st, 2012 to September 30th, 2013. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following paper. The annual administrative report of the Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security for the year 2014. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the administrative report of the Office of the Prime Minister for the period October 12 to September 2012 to September 2013.
The Deputy Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers. 1, the annual administrative report of the Statutory Authority Service Commission for the year ending 2014. 2, the 101st report of the Salaries Review Commission of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the determination of salary and other terms and conditions of service for the offices of Supervisor and Deputy Supervisor of Insolvency. I thank you.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following paper. The Civil Aviation Number 18 State Aircraft Registration and Markings Regulations 2015.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following paper. The Trinidad and Tobago Housing Development Corporation Vesting Amendment to the First Schedule, Number 3, Order 2015.
Reports from committees, Prime Minister's questions, urgent questions.
Member for Tabakit.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, is the Minister aware that over $200 million is owed to local contractors by OAS as a result of OAS Constructura not receiving funding from the National Infrastructure Development Company Limited, NIDCO?
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, it has recently come to my attention that a certificate in the sum of 102 million, not 200 million, has been made in favor of OAS. The government is carefully considering this payment certificate as well as all other matters of a contractual nature regarding that particular highway contract.
Member for Faizabad.
To the Minister of Health, in view of the recent deaths of a mother, I'm sorry.
But the member, I recognize the member for Faizabad. Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Health, in view of the recent deaths of a mother and her baby, and one other baby at the Mount Hope Women's Hospital, can the Minister indicate what concrete measures are being taken by the government to reduce the maternal and perinatal mortality rates in our nation?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Member of Parliament for Faizabad, for bringing a very timely question. Madam Speaker, I'd like to place the answer in context. One of the markers for a country attaining first world standard is a maternal mortality rate of less than 50 deaths per 100,000 live births. For contextual purposes, between 1990 and 2013, in the United States, maternal mortality rose from 12 to 28 per 100,000. In Barbados, it declined from 120 to 52. And in Trinidad and Tobago, from 1990 to 2013, it declined from 89 to just 85. So we have made no appreciable progress in maternal mortality from 1990 to 2013. Madam Speaker, what are some of the factors? Our factors match those of the recent WHO report, which speaks about pre-existing medical conditions. 1 in 4 mothers presenting with obesity, diabetes, hypertension, lack of midwives and lack of healthcare professionals, and mainly lack of clear policies, protocols, and guidelines to deal with all categories of maternal cases, especially high risk. Locally, Madam Speaker, we have had a series of problems, the key one being lack of succession planning at our public institutions. For example, at Mount Hope, the gap between consultants and the other professionals goes like this. You have 20 doctors responsible for maternity cases at Mount Hope. 3 of those doctors have over 10 years experience. 7 between 5 to 10 years experience only, and 10 less than 5 years experience. In that particular field, it is felt that a doctor needs at least 10 to 15 years experience. Thank you.
May I just remind you of Standing Order 2712?
Yes, thank you. And I'm coming to the measures, but I can only talk about the measures in the context of what problems we face. So what are the measures?
I am sorry, your time is up. You have 2 minutes in accordance with the Standing Order to answer the question. Yes, Honourable Member for Caroni Central.
Could the member for St. Joseph indicate his source for making that statement of 1 in 4? What is the source of that?
WHO report and reports and statistics coming out of the Mount Hope Hospital.
What year? WHO? Yes, I know. Two. The other supplemental, Madam Speaker.
You try.
Your measures, the measures asked about in this question.
Yes.
The measures asked about in this question. Are they going to be are you going to wait until the team that has been appointed to look into the healthcare areas complete their work, or are you going to institute measures before?
Thank you. We are instituting measures starting as early as next week, Wednesday. We are having a meeting being chaired by Dr. Adesh Sirjising, who is part of the review team set up by the Prime Minister, where all stakeholders are being invited to a meeting next week, Wednesday, to come up to deal with all the recommendations coming out of all the reports dealing with baby cattle, ransomware, and all the other reports. And you have 76 recommendations that we have to deal with, very few which have been implemented over the past 5 years. And this administration will be implementing those as of next week, Wednesday.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the Minister state, the Minister of Education, state the reasons for the delay in the delivery of the new Monroe Road Hindu School and provide a date when the school will be opened?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Monroe Road Vedic Primary School was closed since Monday, 28th of September 2015. Monroe Vedic Primary School. Which is the question you're asking? Madam Speaker, the Monroe Road Hindu School is awaiting approval from the Ministry of Works and the Regional Corporation. Approvals have already been obtained from WASA, from Fire Services, from the Town and Country Department, and from the Electrical Inspectorate. the contractor is in the process of acquiring the 2 outstanding statutory approvals before the school can be occupied. It should be noted that the Mahasaba Board of Education has locked out the staff and students from the old school compound where they occupied previously. The Ministry of Education is currently exploring alternative venues for relocation of the school, pending receipt of the outstanding approvals.
Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
Could the Honourable Minister indicate what kind of time frame, because you have 300 students without classes at the moment over the last month?
Madam Speaker, that issue is one of concern to us in the Ministry of Education, and we are awaiting the approvals, as I stated before, from the Ministry of Works and from the Regional Corporation. As soon as we get these approvals, then we make all the necessary arrangements to have the school reopened.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, could you indicate whether approvals are necessary for an alternative venue?
Yes, approvals are necessary. Remember, we are dealing with children. We would not want to put them in a building that is injurious or hazardous to their health and safety.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Education, Honourable Minister of Education. With regard to the Montrose Vedic Primary School, could the Minister state the reasons for the delay in spraying and sanitizing the school to eliminate pests and indicate when the school will be reopened?
Madam Speaker, again I share the concern of the Minister. The Montrose Vedic Primary School was closed since Monday, the 20th of September 2015, because of problems associated with fleas and mites. The school was sprayed and classes resumed on Monday, the 12th of October. However, the problem persisted. Following meetings with stakeholders, a decision was made to carry out the following works. 1, air quality testing of the school compound, and this was a pre-test. Sanitizing of all furniture and the classrooms. Painting of the classrooms, and air quality testing of the school compound as a post-test. Query has been engaged to carry out the air quality testing. Query has indicated that equipment required to do this job is expected in the country today, Friday 13th of November. Once the pretest is carried out, the sanitization will commence, and it will take approximately 5 days. Once the sanitization has been completed, it is expected that the school will resume on the 23rd of November 2015. In the interim, the ministry explored the option of relocation of school to an alternative venue, including transport. Couva West Secondary School was identified and can accommodate the entire school. However, the parents have refused this option so far.
Would the Honourable Minister indicate the time frame for the testing by the testing agency for completion before you do the sanitization?
Madam Speaker, I think I was clear in stating that Query has informed us that this exercise will take approximately 5 days. And as soon as this post-testing has been completed, the sanitization will take place and school will be expected to be reopened by the 23rd of November. Thank you.
Member for Couva North.
Minister, are you aware that the relocation to Couva West is extremely far from the original location? That is why the parents are disagreeing to move. However, there were plans for relocation on identified lands within the borough of Chaguanas. Are you going to follow through with those relocation plans?
Madam Speaker, it is always a concern of ours when students are deprived of their education. And in the initial stages, we thought that relocating the students to the school in Couva would have offered them, the students, the opportunity of an education. The parents are the ones who have refused this offer. I am not aware of any alternative site. The school supervisors are on the field trying to solve this problem. In the interim, our students are being deprived of an education, not because of the Ministry of Education, but simply because the parents have refused the offer at Couva Secondary.
Member for Chaguanas West.
To the Honorable Minister of Education, could the Minister state whether the positions of Chief Operating Officer and Chief Executive Officer at the Educational Facilities Company Limited, EFCL, are currently vacant?
Madam Speaker, the simple answer to that question is no. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Caroni Central.
Would the Honourable Minister indicate whether Attorney at Law John Jeremy is involved in this matter at EFCL related to the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Executive Officer? And if he is involved, what are his fees for becoming involved in that matter?
Honourable Member for Caronies, I won't allow that question as a supplemental question following from the question that was asked. Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
Could the Honourable Minister of Education indicate whether the incumbent or the previous incumbent Chief Operating Officer and Chief Executive Officer were removed from office?
Madam Speaker, a new board of the EFCL has been put in place, and in fact, members of the board were given their letters of appointment on Monday the 9th. I have been in constant contact with the chairman of the board, and I have arranged a meeting with the entire board on Monday the 16th of November at my office at 3 p.m. At that meeting, we will be discussing the way forward and what we can do to ensure that the EFCL operates in the manner in which it is supposed to operate.
The member for St. Augustine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of National Security, in light of the continued attacks on prison officers, can the Minister indicate what steps have been taken or continued to ensure the better safety and well-being of prison officers and their families?
Madam Speaker, steps that have been taken to ensure the better safety and well-being of prison officers and their families include: 1, a meeting was held with the Commissioner of Prisons and his executives. 2, a meeting was held with the Prison Services Association, during which we explored options to treat with the safety and security of the prison officers. That conversation continues, Madam Speaker.
For St. Augustine.
Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, have you considered the creation of a specialized investigative unit to deal with attacks on officers of the state, or indeed not just attacks, but those who may create dangers to them, preemptively?
Honourable Member, St. Augustine, I would not allow that question as supplemental. If you look at your question, it refers to prison officers. Honourable Member for Caroni.
Would the Honourable Minister of National Security indicate that the options that they have been discussing, whether there is the question of early implementation of any of these options to assist in this problem?
Madam Speaker, as mentioned before, we continue to explore the options. It's only after the exploration of those options then we can know the timeliness of implementation, Madam Speaker.
Just members, I would wish to advise that there were certain questions which were sent as urgent questions which weren't allowed, and those members can hold discussions with the clerk of the House with respect to how those questions can be redirected.
Questions on notice. Requests for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance. Statements by ministers.
The Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have been authorized by Cabinet to make the following statement. Trinidad and Tobago is a founding member of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, otherwise known as CFATF, and thus has an international obligation to pursue the FATF 40 recommendations. These are the international gold standard for effective national anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism regimes, and compliance, which is mandatory for any country participating in the global economy. The tool used to verify compliance with the FATF recommendations is the mutual evaluation, which involves a team of regional experts in the legal, financial, and law enforcement fields examining the AML CFT regime of the country. In 2005, our country underwent the third round mutual evaluation, focusing on legislative and other legally binding measures. We were rated non-compliant with 20 of the 40 recommendations and 8 special recommendations on combating terrorist financing. We were thus placed into the CFATF follow-up process and required to report at every biannual plenary meeting on the progress made to rectify the outstanding deficiencies. Our country also underwent enhanced monitoring by the International Cooperation Review Group of the Americas, ICRG, as it's called, an unprecedented two-tiered monitoring. Between October 2009 and February 2010, 4 key legislative countermeasures were enacted to bring our system into compliance with the then FATF recommendations. Notwithstanding these accomplishments, in February 2010, FATF grey-listed Trinidad and Tobago, and our government's commitment to bring the country into compliance was, however, recognized, as the FATF statement acknowledged that our country then had demonstrated progress in improving its AML CFT regime and should continue to work on implementing its action plan to address the deficiencies identified in February 2010. Trinidad and Tobago was ultimately removed from the monitoring process of FATF ICRG initiative in October 2012, but remained in the CFATF follow-up process. Trinidad and Tobago did not do all that was required to exit the third round by November 2014 plenary as scheduled. It was, however, agreed that the plenary that the outstanding third round deficiencies would be merged into the fourth round assessment, and thus reporting under the third round mutual evaluation report came to an end. The fourth round applies the revised FATF 40 standards and now focuses on both technical compliance and effectiveness. Our fourth round mutual evaluation began with us completing an extensive questionnaire in June 2014 as a part of a desk-based review, and incorporated an on-site examination assessment in January 2015. We agreed to this timeline in 2012, so there was adequate time to ensure we made substantial progress before the evaluation. Trinidad and Tobago must now seek adjustments to the ratings and observations of assessors as appropriate. The evaluation will culminate with the report being discussed and finalized at the 42nd plenary this month, at which meeting we will also ascend to the chair of CFATF. That is, Trinidad and Tobago will become the chair of CFATF. FATF and all CFATF members are invited to comment on the report. Through a process of fine-tuning, less than 10 key issues in the report will be identified for discussion at CFATF Working Group on FATF Issues. From this will flow a set of proposals for key issues, which will be presented to the plenary for discussion. On November 22nd, 2015, there will be a meeting including representatives of Trinidad and Tobago, the assessors and reviewers, in order to attempt to resolve any outstanding issues. Any resulting changes will be presented to the compilation of comments for plenary document. The report will thereafter be considered by the plenary when ratings will be finalized, with a determination subsequently being made as to what is to be taken in respect of Trinidad and Tobago. No one should have expected Trinidad and Tobago to be cut any slack by its contemporaries in the mutual evaluation. There are already calls for further downgrades of some of the ratings given in our country. In respect of immediate outcome 1, which is risk and policy coordination, the United States has recommended that we be downgraded from moderate to low. Gaps in the transparency of beneficial ownership of legal persons and regulation of the non-profit organization sector are also high on the list of concerns of the Americans. With respect to recommendation 29, financial intelligence units, Canada has recommended that we be downgraded from largely compliant to partially compliant based on the hiring system in respect of the FIU. Canada has also made similar recommendations in respect of recommendation 27, that is the powers of supervisors, and 34, the guidance and feedback. In its submission, Canada also highlighted that several immediate outcomes point to a substantial lack of effectiveness due to deficiencies with the sanctions regime. The government will, of course, strongly defend the national position. The Interministerial Committee will continue to work with the National Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Financing of Terrorism unit, called NAMLAC, to select the strongest team to represent the country in the evaluation review. We have identified several statements and conclusions in the report that we view as inaccurate and which should consequently be reviewed and amended. Trinidad and Tobago now finds itself on the brink of what is known as enhanced follow-up. This will require more regular reporting than ordinary biennial reporting, with the exact frequency being determined by the plenary in May 2016. The plenary could also adopt other measures ranging from a letter sent from the CFATF chairman, which incidentally will be the Trinidad and Tobago Attorney General, to Trinidad and Tobago, drawing attention to the lack of compliance with FATF standards, to suspension of membership in CFATF, to termination of membership. Any level of sanctions can have wide-ranging negative impacts on our country and our citizens. The comments already received from the United States and Canada do not bode well for our position. The international investment marketplace is increasingly using mutual evaluations and follow-up reports and data on AML CFT compliance to place and maintain foreign direct investments. Conversely, we may encounter challenges to capital investment abroad by government, wholly or majority-owned entities. Multinational financial institutions may also reconsider their tenability in a country with weak ratings to avoid being tainted through association and possible declines in share pricing. The ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago can be hampered. Financial institutions and intermediaries may be called upon to perform enhanced customer due diligence. International business transactions may be slower and more costly for local businesses and manufacturers. Trinidad and Tobago may become more vulnerable in respect of its citizens' exposure. We are now faced with prioritizing a large portion of time and resources of the executive, legislature, technocrats, and the business sector to being removed from enhanced follow-up. These are resources which could otherwise be spent on expanding business opportunities for Trinidad and Tobago. Both the mutual evaluation exercise and our own national risk assessment highlight important technical and effectiveness steps which we can take. The assessors have thus far assigned us a rating of non-compliant in 2 recommendations, that is recommendation 7 and 8, partially compliant in 14, recommendation 6, 22, 23, 28, and recommendation 26, and moderate to low in all 11 immediate outcomes with low levels of effectiveness in such areas as money laundering, investigations, and prosecution. This government will correct the legislative deficiencies. A complete assessment of legislative requirements will be completed shortly, but includes key amendments to address difficulties under the Proceeds of Crime Act, freezing of assets under Anti-Terrorism Act, the amendments to the Financial Intelligence Unit to allow for greater autonomy and strengthened powers to that regulator, and the mutual assistance in criminal matters. The development of regimes to govern non-profit organizations and to address proliferation of weapons of mass destruction remain high on the agenda. So to regimes governing non-conviction-based asset forfeiture, controlled delivery, and transparency and beneficial ownership of legal arrangements such as trusts. Greater emphasis will have to be placed on effectiveness mechanisms, Madam Speaker. High priority must be given to investigation and prosecution of AML CFTF offences. This will require us to ensure that institutions such as the Financial Investigation Branch, the DPP, are adequately staffed, trained, and experienced personnel in operation so that there is effective communication and information sharing among the intelligence community, law enforcement investigators, and prosecutors. These steps, which should have been accomplished had the last government done what it should have done, will have to be accomplished by this government. The momentum which we gained in 2010 will have to be regained and sustained. This government fully acknowledges its responsibility to the people of our country and to the international community to achieve effective systems to address the threat of money laundering, the financing of terrorism, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. As the incoming chair of CFATF and the host nation of the Secretariat, we have an even higher duty in this regard. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present a statement authorized by the Cabinet. Madam Speaker, crime is the #1 issue plaguing our beloved twin island state of Trinidad and Tobago. Changes in government have tended to retard the progress of the reduction of crime. As far too often, incoming governments have found it difficult to gain the necessary momentum and follow through to overcome this burning issue. Failure to plan, failure to deliver, and failure to achieve are experiences that Trinidad and Tobago simply cannot afford to endure any longer. As an opposition in the period 2010 to 2015, the People's National Movement engaged in active support of the vast majority of legislative proposals brought by the then PP administration. Full support was given to legislation properly aimed at extinguishing crime and criminality. Detection and conviction rates plummeted in Trinidad and Tobago in the period 2010 to 2015. This phenomenon was as a direct result of the paucity of witnesses to crimes. Far too often this nation is riddled with very public allegation resembling certainty of crime, corruption, murder, and mayhem. Everyone suspects who is guilty, but no one steps forward to testify to guilt-bearing evidence. The reason is clear. The fear of victimization and reprisal for honest exposure is not only perceived, but real. Witness protection is a mere platitude in reality. Corruption occurs blatantly in public institutions and state enterprises, and yet not a trace can be found with one to testify by a single living soul brought forward. Who should step forward as a witness? Why should someone step forward as a witness? What protection is there if one steps forward as a witness? What mechanisms and institutions exist to insulate those brave enough to step forward, or those just plain fed up with dishonesty, greed, and criminality? As an opposition then, we had proposed moving immediately to legislative reform to ease the speedy appointment of a commissioner of police. We had proposed the conduct of a manpower audit of the TTPS, the establishment of an enlarged municipal police, the giving of more teeth to the Police Complaints Authority. In the 2015 manifesto, now government policy, which is now underfoot, we undertook to introduce as a priority whistleblower protection legislation to allow exposure of corrupt activities through the Integrity Commission. We undertook review and to improve the Public Procurement Act in order to remove loopholes, limitations, and weaknesses that currently exist there. We undertook to enact and implement appropriate campaign finance legislation, drawing upon experience of models successfully in use in developed countries such as the UK and US. We undertook to ensure and support an efficient and legitimate criminal justice system towards prevention of crime. We undertook to address prison legislation and penal reform, review and amend local government legislation, enact legislation that promotes the rehabilitation of young offenders. The Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs has reviewed 111 items of primary legislative proposal since coming into office, and 38 items of subsidiary legislative proposal. Government ministries are mandated to return to the AGLA with immediacy. The Ministry of the Attorney General shall be publishing, I repeat, publishing its legislative agenda in a matter of weeks after the current review is completed, so that the nation can have a clear line of sight of the work to be undertaken. The intensity of the aforementioned notwithstanding, the Ministry of the Attorney General is able to state today that we have produced 2 critical bills for immediate national scrutiny through the operation of the Joint Select Committee process of the 11th Parliament. These bills are the Whistleblower Protection 2015 Bill and the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015. We are at present dealing with the legislative mechanisms to cause the appointment of a Commissioner of Police, and we expect this to be completed no later than the end of November 2015. The Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015, and the certainty of the appointment of a Commissioner of Police to manage the investigative arms of the state all closely articulate with this government's stated commitment to rid our country of crime. The legislative reforms articulate very closely with campaign finance reform, amendments to the revenue management of Trinidad and Tobago, local government reform, and improvements to the criminal justice system, all of which are actively afoot. In light of our country's downgrade by international agencies under the PP government, the nation's fall in positive rankings against corruption indices, this government has maintained its focus in prioritizing the introduction of the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015, as it represents the making of legislation which will protect those who may know, those who may have seen, those who may have heard, and of course, those who may be too afraid to disclose information of scandalous and deliberate acts of corruption, all too often hidden behind closed doors. Madam Speaker, this government firmly believes that corruption is a transgression, a crime which has not just been swept under the proverbial rug, but which has been almost inherent in our society. The cutting of the thorns is where Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015 comes in. Madam Speaker, we believe that there are many decent and God-fearing people who are willing to testify as to crime and criminality within the public and private sectors, provided that they are clothed with adequate protection. Madam Speaker, the government has scrutinized several models of legislation from jurisdictions including the United Kingdom, Canada, the USA, Malta, Jamaica, and Malaysia. We focused on the merit to be found in 3 pieces of legislation, namely that from Malta, the Protection of Whistleblower Act 2013, Jamaica, the Protected Disclosures Act 2011, and Malaysia, the Whistleblower Protection Act 2010. The bill to be introduced in this House is a hybrid of the Malaysian, Jamaican, and Maltese models. Madam Speaker, the objectives of the proposed bill include the desire to combat corruption and other wrongdoings, while we encourage and facilitate disclosures of improper conduct in the public and private sector, protect persons making those disclosures from detrimental action, regulate the receiving investigation, and otherwise dealing with disclosures of improper conduct and to provide for other measures connected. Madam Speaker, the dominant feature of the proposed bill is the protection and immunity from civil and criminal suit for those so named whistleblowers who may want to disclose forms of improper conduct within their places of employment, be it in the public or private sector. The bill will allow whistleblowers to be protected from detrimental action, facilitating protection from victimization, harassment, suspension, adverse reference, loss, injury or damage to employment, family life, career, profession, trade or business, all broadly defined in the bill. Reasonable, though not accurate, belief on the part of the whistleblower is required. Malicious or fraudulent action on the part of the whistleblower is condemned and criminalized. The proposed bill is strict as to the observance of secrecy and confidentiality with respect to disclosures made. Madam Speaker, this government believes that the bill will seek to encourage whistleblowers who commit crimes to come forward by encouraging a system of mitigation and reward. Breaches of the proposed bill are proposed to attract serious criminal and civil sanctions. Madam Speaker, the proposed bill has been drafted in such a way as to address the climate of alleged corruption and the need to encourage transparency within the aim of protection. Madam Speaker, this government believes that consultation, discussion, and transparency are fundamental building blocks in the legislative process. We believe that the proposed bill should be subjected to parliamentary scrutiny and the widest possible consultation, and it is in this regard that this government proposes that, pursuant to Standing Order 64(1)(c), that the proposed bill will be referred to a joint select committee of the Parliament. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am authorized by the Cabinet to make this statement on the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act. It is a matter of record that Parliament went through elaborate exercises to debate procurement reform in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2014. On several occasions over the 2010 to 2014 period, the previous administration promised to move expeditiously to enact public procurement legislation, but failed to do so. Indeed, by the time the previous government demitted office, after 5 years of talk, and after numerous scandals regarding public procurement under their tenure, the new procurement system was not operational. As promised, Madam Speaker, we intend to move swiftly to correct this deficiency by setting a tight time frame for amendments to the legislation. It should be noted that during the committee stage of the debate in 2014, despite requesting and receiving input from the opposition, the previous government rejected all of the amendments to the bill that were proposed by the opposition through the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Northeast. The amendments proposed by the opposition included provisions to allow the Parliament to intervene if the procurement regulator acted irrationally or capriciously or whimsically obstructed the country's development program or engaged in misconduct. The amendments provided for a resolution of Parliament, which would quite naturally follow an extensive debate to allow the appointment by the President of a tribunal comprised of sitting or retired judges to inquire into the conduct of the regulator and to determine whether he should be removed from office. Madam Speaker, this is a standard feature of procurement legislation in all progressive countries, and if accepted, it would have given the Parliament the ability to protect the country against an errant regulator. In addition, the amendments provided for the automatic referral to the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament of reports made by the regulator on awards of contract in the public sector and other matters of a contractual nature, which would have allowed bipartisan and public scrutiny of the findings and recommendations of the regulator on the use of taxpayers' money. Further, the amendments provided for the establishment of a high-level review board comprised of experts, including a retired judge and industry professionals, whose responsibility would have been to review orders and decisions made by the regulator within prescribed time periods, thus allowing aggrieved persons redress within a short space of time. Again, this is a feature of similar legislation in all progressive countries in the world, and it also makes practical business common sense to allow an intermediate and speedy avenue for redress for aggrieved persons who wish to challenge a decision by the regulator regarding public procurement or disposal of public property, rather than sending them immediately into litigation and exposing them to the vagaries and expense of the court system. Finally, and very importantly, the question of the disposal of state lands, such as the disposal of the valuable and contentious Invaders Bay property, was brushed aside by the previous government and omitted from the ambit of the Act. Fortuitously, the election of September 7, 2015 has resulted in a change of government. The new PNM administration is now in a position to address all of these issues and to ensure that we in Trinidad and Tobago have practical and effective procurement legislation. As promised in our 2015 election manifesto, a public procurement and disposal of public property amendment bill has been drafted and will be sent to a joint select committee momentarily, with a mandate to report back to Parliament in the shortest possible time. The committee will be requested to examine the policy and merits of the amendment bill, and to also examine the current procedures for the appointment of the procurement regulator to see if these procedures make sense and are in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Personal explanations. Introduction of bills.
Madam Speaker, I would like to ask a question of the Minister of Finance under 24.4.
You're allowed one question, Honourable Member for Caroni Central.
The question is very simple, Madam Speaker. What is the real intent of the government in referring this matter to another joint select committee when the bill has already been partially proclaimed following passage by both houses of Parliament after a comprehensive report by a joint select committee which addressed this matter for 3 years?
Madam Speaker, this administration is all about good governance. We proposed amendments in 2014, and they were rejected out of hand by that honourable member. We intend to deal with this. We intend to deal with this by sending this to a joint select committee to look at the precise amendments that were submitted to this Parliament.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Personal explanations. Introduction of bills. The Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015 in the name of the Minister of Finance.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 64-1C, I beg to move that the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015 be referred to a joint select committee to be established for its consideration and report. The committee to report to Parliament within 2 months.
Honourable members, the question is that in accordance with Standing Order 64-1C, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015 be referred to a joint select committee to be established for its consideration and report within 2 months. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it.
The Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015 in the name of the Minister of National Security.
The Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 64-1C, I beg to move that the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015 be referred to a joint select committee to be established for its consideration and report.
Honorable members, the question is that in accordance with the Standing Order 64-1C, that the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015 be referred to a joint select committee to be established for its consideration and report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The procedure for the establishment of this committee and also for the committee to be established for the consideration of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015 shall take place later in the proceedings.
Motions relating to the business or sittings of the House and moved by a minister.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Public Accounts Committee. Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy, member. Ms. Marlene McDonald, member. Mr. Randall Mitchell, member. Dr. Boendradat Tiwari, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Public Accounts Committee. Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy, member. Mrs. Marlene McDonald, member. Randall Mitchell, member. Dr. Boendradat Tiwari, member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. Mr. Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines, member. Mrs. Sherry Ann Critchlow Coburn, member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, member. Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. Mr. Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines, member. Mrs. Sharianne Critchlow Coburn, member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, member. Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 5 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Public Administration and Appropriations. Mrs. Bridget Mary Anisette George, Chairman. Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy, member. Ms. Nicole Oliver, member. Mr. Maxi Cuffy, member. And Dr. Lakram Bodo, member. Madam Speaker, I would like to indicate that the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, abbreviated PAAC, which will report to the Parliament on budgetary expenditure of government agencies, has a specific role. And that role, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that expenditure is embarked upon in accordance with parliamentary approval and to keep the Parliament informed of how the budget allocation is being implemented. This committee will therefore perform an important role in exercising a check over government expenditure. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that the following 5 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Public Administration and Appropriations. Mrs. Bridget Mary Anizet George, Chairman. Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy, Member. Ms. Nicole Oliver, Member. Mr. Maxi Cuffey, Member. And Dr. Lakram Bodo, Member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting. Mrs. Bridget Mary Anisette George, Chairman. Mr. Darrell Smith, Member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, Member. Mr. Barry Padarath, Member.
Honourable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting. Mrs. Bridget Mary Anizet George, Chairman. Mr. Darrell Smith, Member. Ms. Shamfa Kojo, Member. Mr. Barry Padarath, Member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Government Assurances. Mrs. Bridget Anisette George, Vice Chairman. Mr. Adrian Leons, Member. Mr. Anthony Garcia, Member. Dr. Suraj Ratan Rambachan, Member. Madam Speaker, often whilst replying to questions in the House or during debate, ministers at times give assurances or undertakings either to consider a matter, to take some action, or to furnish the House or a member with further information at a later time. This newly established Committee on Government Assurances shall be tasked with scrutinizing the assurances, promises, and undertakings given by ministers from time to time on the floor of the House, and reporting to Parliament on the extent to which such assurances, promises, and undertakings have been implemented. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move.
Honourable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Government Assurances. Mrs. Bridget Mary Anizet George, Vice Chairman. Mr. Adrian Leons, Member. Mr. Anthony Garcia, Member. Dr. Suraj Ratan Rambachan, Member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on National Security. Ms. Nicole Oliver, Member. Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, Member. Mr. Faris Al-Rawi, Member. and Mr. Prakash Ramada, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on National Security. Ms. Nicole Oliver, member. Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, member. Mr. Faris Alwari, member. Mr. Prakash Ramada, member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Energy Affairs. Major General Edmund Dillon, member. Mr. Colum Imbert, member. Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy, member. Mr. David Lee, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Energy Affairs. Major General Edmund Dillon, member. Mr. Colum Imbert, member. Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy, member. Mr. David Lee, member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Foreign Affairs. Ms. Marlene McDonald, member. Mr. Terence Dialsing, member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, member. Mr. Rodney Charles, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Foreign Affairs. Ms. Marlene McDonald, member. Mr. Terence Dialsing, member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, member. Mr. Rodney Charles, member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Human Rights, Equality, and Diversity. Dr. Nian Gadsby Dolly, member. Mrs. Glenda Jennings Smith, member. Mr. Randall Mitchell, member. Mrs. Vidya Gayadeen Gopi Singh, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Human Rights, Equality, and Diversity. Dr. Nyan Gadsby Dolly, member. Mrs. Glenda Jennings Smith, member. Mr. Randall Mitchell, member. Mrs. Vidya Gayadeen Gopi Singh, member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Section 66A departmental committees established by the Constitution have been established in the following areas. 1, finance and legal affairs. 2, land and physical infrastructure. 3, social services and public administration. 4, local authorities, service commissions, and statutory authorities. And 5, state enterprises. Madam Speaker, these joint select committees have been realigned according to omnibus subject matters, signifying what we choose to call in the Parliament a path-breaking adjustment to the business approach of the parliamentary committee system. With a clear shift of emphasis, committees will now focus on specific issues within their business areas, but can, of course, continue to examine matters as may be deemed fit in relation to specific ministries and agencies which may fall under their general purview, thereby enhancing government accountability. Given the many demands on the Parliament's time, these committees will allow for more thorough investigation of matters, thus strengthening the parliamentary process as they undertake important functions which cannot be performed in the debating chambers. Madam Speaker, I am advised that your office has caused to be circulated a guide to the business areas of these omnibus committees and that a committee's workshop is being organized for members of these committees. In this regard, Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Finance and Legal Affairs. Mr. Randall Mitchell, member. Ms. Marlene McDonald, member. Dr. Lovell Francis, member. Mr. Prakash Ramada, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Finance and Legal Affairs. Mr. Randall Mitchell, member. Ms. Marlene McDonald, member. Dr. Lovell Francis, member. Mr. Prakash Ramadan, member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure. Mr. Darrell Smith, member. Mrs. Glenda Jennings Smith, member. Dr. Lovell Francis, member. Mr. Rushton Parry, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure. Mr. Darrell Smith, member. Mrs. Glenda Jennings Smith, member. Dr. Lovell Francis, member. Mr. Rushton Parry, member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. Mr. Terence Dialsing, member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, member. Brigadier Ansel Antoine, member. Mrs. Christine Nawalo Hossain, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. Mr. Terence Dialsing, member. Ms. Shamfa Kajo, member. Brigadier Ansel Antoine, member. Mrs. Christine Noalo Hossain, member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities. Mr. Stuart Young, member. Mr. Darrell Smith, member. Mr. Faris Al-Rawi, member. Mrs. Ramona Ramdial, member.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities. Mr. Stuart Young, member. Mr. Darrell Smith, member. Mr. Faris Alwari, member. Mrs. Roma Ramdial, member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Madam Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on State Enterprises. Brigadier General Ansel Antwine, Mr. Adrian Leons, Mrs. Sherry Ann Critchlow Coburn, and Mr. Fazil Karim, all members.
Honorable members, the question is that the following 4 members be appointed to serve with an equal number from the Senate on the Joint Select Committee on State Enterprises. Brigadier Ansel Antwine, member. Mr. Adrian Leons, member. Mrs. Sherry-Ann Critchlow Coburn, member. Mr. Fazal Karim, member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion: that for the purposes of Section 64(1)(c), that this House appoint 4 members to sit with an equal number from the Senate on a Joint Select Committee to consider and report on a bill entitled the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015. And that this committee be mandated to report within 8 weeks. That is to say, on or before January 22nd, 2016. And that, provided it receives the concurrence of the Senate, that the following 4 members be appointed to serve on the committee: Mr. Colum Imbert, member. Mrs. Sherry-Ann Critchlow Coburn, member. Mr. Adrian Leons, member. And 1 member from the opposition. We did not know with whom to consult as the Chief Whip, Madam Speaker.
Quite settled. Give us a need. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Leader of Government Business knows that we engage in full collaboration and at the appropriate time, because it was only brought to our notice a few minutes ago that we needed to make a recommendation. We would caucus on it and indicate to the Honourable House.
Honourable members, the question is that for the purposes of Section 64(1)(c), this House appoint 4 members to sit with an equal number from the Senate on a Joint Select Committee to consider and report on a bill entitled the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment Bill 2015, and that this committee be mandated to report on or before the 22nd of January 2016, and that, provided it receives the concurrence of the Senate, that the following 4 members be appointed to serve on the committee: Mr. Colum Imbert, member. Mrs. Sherry-Ann Critchlow Coburn, member. Mr. Adrian Leons, member. And 1 member of the opposition to be named by the opposition. All in favor? Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
I said 2 months. That's 8 weeks. That's 2 months. Madam Speaker. Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. That for the purposes of Section 64(1)(c), that this House appoint 4 members to sit with an equal number from the Senate on a joint select committee to consider and report on a bill entitled the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015. That this committee be mandated to report within 8 weeks, that is to say, the 22nd day of January 2016, and that, provided it receives the concurrence of the Senate, that the following 4 persons be appointed, 4 members be appointed to serve on the committee. Mr. Stuart Young, Mr. Faris Al-Rawi, Major General Edmund Dillon. And the opposition, after having their caucus,
Which section?
however large or however small, will determine the 4th member. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that for the purposes of Section 64(1)(c), this House appoint 4 members to sit with an equal number from the Senate on a joint select committee to consider and report on a bill entitled the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2015, and this committee be mandated to report by the 22nd of January 2016, and that provided it receives the concurrence of the Senate, that the following 4 members be appointed to serve on the committee. Mr. Stuart Young, member. Mr. Faris Al-Rawi, member. Major Edmund Dillon, member. And an opposition member to be named. All in favor? Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. The Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to a date to be fixed, and that we will return on such date once it is fixed. Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that this House do now adjourn on a date to be fixed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I guess the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.
With those words from the Speaker of the House, we've come to the end of the 8th sitting of the House in the first session of the 11th Parliament that takes place on Friday, November 13th, 2015. Short day of business today, although much was accomplished. Some 93 papers were laid. Petitions were filed on behalf of an attorney at law wishing to have extracts from the Hansard submitted into court. Leave was granted and the petitioner was allowed to proceed. Members were appointed to several joint select committees, and those of you who are listening would recognize that there was a reshaping of the way in which the oversight joint select committees are comprised, and we'll give you more details on this in our subsequent broadcasts. And now the House has been adjourned to a date to be fixed. The next live sitting will be on Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. when the Senate shall convene. From all of us here at the Parliament Channel, we thank you for staying with us for today's broadcast, and we hope that you have a very pleasant evening.
This has been a presentation of the Parliament Channel and Parliament Radio 105.5 FM. Follow the Parliament